I'm going to ask the board to please put off the adoption of the town board minutes from the last meeting. We did not receive them until some of the board members took just before this meeting began, and I didn't get them to this afternoon, so I have not had time to review them. So we can put it off to the next meeting if there's any objection.
No objection.
There being none, we'll put it off. Abstracts.
Make a motion to approve abstract number 38 dated September 19, 2018, and abstract number 39 dated September 26, 2018, as presented.
Second.
Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We carry unanimously. Thank you.
Make a motion to accept the budget modifications as listed and the amendments. There was one.
Second.
Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We carry unanimously. Chairman Bradley is not here. I do not see him in the audience, so we're going to skip over or defer or whatever, number 5. Let's go to the public hearing on streetlight conversions. A public hearing to consider converting the existing full-service National Grid-owned overhead streetlights to LEDs, light-emitting diodes. I have proof of publication, and with us tonight is David Hess from National Grid, and he's going to talk to us about the advantages of converting our streetlights. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing and ask Mr. Hess to address.
Good evening, board. Good evening, residents. First, I want to apologize for when I was on vacation the last. I inadvertently told my colleagues the wrong time, so I take full blame.
We're canceling your vacations. We talked to you.
As requested, I'm here tonight to talk about a potential streetlight conversion to LEDs within the town of Cicero. Currently, the town has roadway lights. Those are the ones on the wood poles along the older developments, if you will, in the main roads. We currently have 1,069 of these within the town of Cicero that are eligible to be converted to LEDs. And with that, the way the system works is the town would be required to pay the net book value. And what that means is the undepreciated value on our books for the existing lights being removed. You're not paid for the labor, just what's on the books. And what the commission, Public Service Commission, stated is you cannot have one municipality pretty much subsidizing a second municipality. So each municipality is on its own to pay those values. And as presented, at the request of Mr. Supervisor, I provided a letter, and that dollar value to the town of Cicero is $135,000. And then currently, in our rate case that we just filed in April of 2018, there is $1.6 million available this year, and again next year, as incentives, if you will, energy incentives, to convert these lights. And it's all based on the wattage that's installed. So in other words, if you go with a 25-watt LED, you get $50 per light. That's how it works. We took a guess at what Cicero would have, and it's just under $59,000 would be your rebate off of the 135. You would pay the 135, and after the lights are converted, you would be sent a check for that value. And currently, you're looking at about a 2.5-year payback for the whole town. And I'm more than willing to answer any questions you have regarding it. I can tell you that if the town does elect to convert, we do about 45 lights a day. So you're talking about 24 working days, which is roughly 1 month to do it. And there's currently 8 municipalities in front of you.
Okay. Now, I understand that at this first conversion, because we have lighting districts, this cost for the conversion will be passed on to the homeowners. There will be an increase in the first year, and that'll stay on there about 2.5 years. At that time,
1 year. 1 year, sure.
oh, 1 year, excuse me. And then at that time, then it will decrease, and eventually, we're going to end up having the homeowners with a savings of, did we say 70%? I can't remember what.
The estimated bill for the town would go down roughly $30,000 a year.
Okay.
Yes.
So we would pass that on again to the homeowners, so that would be a decrease for each of the lighting districts.
One lighting district,
Well, yeah, for that type, that old style, okay.
which
Yes.
is the overhead district. Right.
Shirley, can you tell us how much per home roughly that is? works out to?
Roughly the net for this whole project per unit is $10.83. That's
Okay.
it. Next year I'll have to raise the money, the total of dollars amount, which is about $19 more in the overhead lighting district on top of their usual unit charge. But when we get the refund back, it's going to net out to $10.83. That's all they're going to have to pay. And then moving forward, it's going to be the 70% savings in the energy cost.
Can you tell us, once we're moved forward, how much when the cost decreases, how much do you
Yeah,
know how much that is per
currently,
home?
I think it's like $20 a unit currently, so you got 70% of 20,
Okay.
yeah.
70% savings. Okay.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It is very big, it's the initials, like everything's up
So the
front.
bill's gonna go down to about $6 or $8 a
Right.
month instead of being 20
Right,
forever,
yeah, and of course you gotta build in the energy increases on top of that.
all except for Tom's. He's got new lighting.
I got all new LEDs
That-
inside.
I can say about that, the Public Service Commission has asked us to provide samples or pricing model for the underground lights by year's end. I can't say that they're going to be cheaper. That's why we don't offer them yet, because
Yeah.
they're much more expensive. But we have to offer them beginning next year.
So we're only dealing in the overhead, so
Yes.
everybody's clear about that.
Right.
Right.
And I've got 6,300 units in that overhead. So it's past 6,300 units are gonna be paying for this, so it's spread out.
What's the lighting district?
LT 305.
Mr. House, does National Grid perform the conversions during the winter too? Or is
Oh,
this
yes.
only- Okay.
Oh, yes, this would be, you're wrong, except for Route 11,
Right.
from just north of the fire station down, that's gonna be handled by National Grid crews roughly starting in a month,
Okay.
to let you know that.
But the older developments, as you said,
Oh, yes.
will be an ongoing project throughout the winter.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And just to expound a little bit on what Mr. Hess had to say about Route 11. We, as you know, we've had a few fatalities on Route 11. That is our business district. The last one, I believe, was May of last year. We had a young man who was struck by a vehicle because of the lighting condition. At that time, the board had decided that, that was unacceptable. And that we wanted that Route 11 corridor from Bear Road all the way to this building, because we have streetlights here. But I think we're gonna go all the way to the Cicero Fire Department, right, the fire station? Yeah, anyway, we wanted those lights put in, we want high-efficiency LED lights, and as you know, New York State DOT has installed sidewalks, and the holdup on that project, when we talked about it earlier this year, was that the sidewalk people didn't want to get in the way of the National Grid people, who didn't want to get in the way of the sidewalk people, and you know what kind of a problem we had with traffic there all through the summer. So now that the sidewalks are in and installed, National Grid will go ahead and you'll start installing Route 11 next month.
We will, as well as the sidewalk is similar to them, we will also have a road closure for a lane,
Right.
to let you know that.
While you're putting them.
Correct.
Okay. So anyway, good for the environment because we are reducing our carbon footprint, right? By moving from mercury vapor to high efficiency LED lighting. Good for the taxpayer because after 2.5 years, we'll reduce the overhead lighting district fee from roughly $20 per unit per year to about $7.
Yes. The one thing the LED does is it takes the light, sometimes with the sodium, and spreads it. It lights people's yards and that. It is lighting the roadway.
Right.
To let you, and if you need to see it, the Village of North Syracuse is all LED. So, yeah, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
And I'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to come up and speak either for or against installing high-efficiency LED lighting?
Stand to the side.
Yeah. Would anyone like to speak either for or against putting in high-efficiency LED lighting?
I just want to ask a question.
Oh,
David.
absolutely.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Good to see you.
Are we all, when I was here, we were always, you and I were always creating streetlight districts.
Yes.
Are they all together now under general street lighting?
No,
Because the money is different, what different streetlight
I
districts
think
pay.
maybe Shirley wants to
We
answer
have all
that.
the lighting districts have been consolidated to the types of lights. So we did that a couple years ago. So overhead, anyone with an overhead light, the districts combined into the overhead district. So we have overhead, underground decorative, private,
In town general.
and town general. now there's another one.
So it's gonna
For the
affect-
campus.
Oh,
It's gonna affect like
Campus,
3
one
to
you
4
want.
right now, because
It's
he's
just
not
gonna-
doing underground.
He's only going to affect one, which is the LT 305, which is the overhead district.
Which is the largest one. right?
So the others aren't going to be. So it's not across the board savings
Correct.
in 2.5 years.
Correct.
Okay, I just want.
For the
I didn't
overhead,
understand.
overhead districts. Well,
Right.
those, yeah.
Now, what about at the campus? You and I
The
did
campus,
those are
my
private.
recommendation, well, they're private, they're owned by the town. There's no rebates on those currently. And the reasoning there is no rebates is they stated that if National Grid doesn't offer a decorative post-op LED, then there's no rebates for municipally owned as well. So therefore, if we offer the decorative underground, the municipality, since you own those and you maintain them, you would be eligible for a rebate on those.
Remember, we wanted shoebox.
Oh, yes.
We didn't get them.
Oh, yes. And those, I think those are ProStar metal halides in there. So you can't buy parts from anywhere.
So the town owns them. So
Town owns
actually,
them.
the town could change them for
Absolutely.
safety.
They can
To the
change it for any
shoebox.
reason they want.
We should look into that, because it's stark going
Next
back
year.
to the ring and the cottages. Thanks, Dave.
You're very welcome. Good to see you.
Anyone else would like to speak for or against? Any questions? There being none, I will close the public hearing. And any board comments? I think we're ready for a resolution, right? Would we like to go ahead and approve that, board?
Yes.
Okay, I did not do it. We do not have a resolution, so we'll just make a resolution.
I can do one.
Go ahead.
I can write it, but.
Why don't- yeah, why don't you write one
Move
up?
the adoption of resolution approving the overhead streetlight conversion to LED light emitting diodes as proposed.
Any board, will get a second?
Second.
Any further board
You got
comments?
it.
Oh,
Move the adoption resolution converting the overhead lighting districts to LEDs or light emitting diodes as proposed.
Thank you. I will second that. Any board comments or discussion, any further? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you, David.
Anytime you need, just give me a call.
Thank you, appreciate it. We talked about this yesterday. What the purpose of the hearing is to approve the changing of the local law that allows the chief to work with, or the police department to work with the highway department to remove yield signs. We talked about, I'll let you, we are not voting on whether or not we want them, or we don't want them, or we want a stop sign, or we don't want a stop sign. The public safety officer of the town, the chief officer is our chief of police, and his police officers, and I know Sergeant Myers, you were involved in this heavily as well. These are the recommendations of our police department saying that we have improperly installed yield signs, or we have a conflict with both yield signs and stop signs at the same intersection. What we are going to do is allow our chief of police, because I'm going to ask the board to accept our police department as the safety officers of the town of Cicero, to accept their recommendations where these yield signs need to come down, and the stop signs either need to be replaced or get your recommendation. So before we open that up, Chief, do you want to talk to us a little bit before we continue our hearing?
Yeah, I'd like to read a memo that was submitted to the town board, and it starts off with assumptions. And research indicated that there is no record of when the yield signs were installed and who authorized their installation. There is no record that the town board passed a resolution accepting these signs. Although the town board has the exclusive authority as a suburban town through a resolution to install traffic control devices as needed, the town of Cicero does not have a comprehensive procedure on identification, installation of traffic control devices. This decision has been based upon 3 areas that I'm aware of. 1, a resident submits a request. Number 2, a petition from several residents of the impacted area. And the 3rd one is a recommendation from the police department. There's currently no consistent basis for making these decisions. The New York State Vehicle Traffic Law, Section 1142, requires a driver approaching an intersection are controlled by a yield sign to slow down to a reasonable speed for existing conditions, or shall stop if necessary and shall yield the right-of-way to a pedestrian legally crossing the roadway on which he is driving, and to any vehicle at the intersection approaching on another highway so closely as to constitute an immediate hazard during the time that such driver is moving across or within that intersection. The law leaves the discretion of coming to a complete stop up to the driver of the vehicle. The U.S. Department of Transportation produces the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices as a guide for all states to follow for installation of traffic control devices. This manual provides consistency across all states. And I want to read just one section of that. It gives, under yield signs, it gives us 5 different areas where they can be utilized. The only one for section A, under 2B.09, yield sign application, yield signs may be installed on the approaches to a thorough street, which would be a T-intersect, or highway where conditions are such that a full stop not always required. And I think that is the key to these yield signs. A full stop is not required.
That being said,
I got something.
go ahead,
Okay.
go ahead, please do.
The installation of yield signs should be considered when the town agrees that not coming to a full stop is an option that at an intersection as defined in section 29, 2B09 of the manual for the traffic control devices for the U.S. Department of Transportation. This decision gives the driver the sole discretion of stopping or not stopping. When making this decision, the town should take into account pedestrian, bicyclists, and other motor vehicle traffic using this location. As the Chief of Police, from a public safety perspective, I would not recommend the placement of yield signs at residential intersections. When placing the yield sign in these locations, the town is allowing drivers to use their discretion to stop or not to stop. I strongly encourage the town board to develop a comprehensive policy on the identification and installation of all traffic control devices as allowed as a suburban town. I would be more than happy to assist the town board with the development of such policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. You have agreed to do that, and I would invite you to do that, and I'm sure the rest of the board will as well. That all being said, would anyone like to speak for or against changing our law to allow the Chief of Police to assert his authority as a safety officer of the town to work with the Highway Department to remove signs that could potentially cause an accident or additional liability to the town?
I have a question though, procedurally. That law, and I think that sounds like a great idea, but that proposed change was not what was advertised for the notice for this public hearing. So wouldn't we need to renotice to change the law in that fashion, Mr. Germain?
Well,
We were going to change it to make specified changes to specified intersections. I'm fine with giving the Chief of Police the authority. I think that makes sense, but I think we need to do a new public hearing and re-notify to do that.
If the council thinks we need to do that, we'll do it.
Besides, several folks that spoke at the last meeting indicated with the understanding that they could keep their yield sign or not keep their yield sign. I'm sorry, to replace.
Yeah, sorry.
My understanding, talking to you, Chief,
is,
is... Yeah, go ahead.
the question you're raising is, if the new thing that we're adding is making the chief the security officer, is that what we're talking about?
Well, he is the security officer of the town.
I think what we're talking about is giving him the authority to work with highway to determine where the yield signs belong and don't, whether or not they should be. Okay, well, with whoever, but I'm just saying that's not what we advertised for the public hearing. It's not even close, so I think we probably need to.
In fairness to the public, we'll re-advertise.
Okay, so what will we do with this one? Close the public hearing or vote no?
Well, this one here is based on these right here.
If you want to do what's in front of you, you can vote yes to this, and then we can add something else later, or just wait. And
Was this list notified or advertised, Tracy?
Yeah,
Yes.
this list was.
This list was also modified.
Yes.
Some intersections have been taken out, but I went personally looked at every one of these intersections. There were 3 or 4 that were taken out. Either no yield sign was necessary or any signage was necessary. or yield sign was appropriate. So we took those intersections out. This is the remaining list. These are all residential T-intersect intersections.
So vote on these, you think, and then do a new public hearing for the,
You could do it that way.
I got no problem with that.
Because you can delete, not add.
Okay.
And I agree with you, John. Councilor Carp, my concern is safety of the public, right? So why would we delay something that could potentially cause a safety issue for our public, right?
There was a request as well that Sunset Drive be Sunset Terrace. That's the correct street name.
Sunset Drive at Williamson Parkway.
Yes, it's Sunset Terrace.
We can make the correction.
It's a clerical error that.
Yeah, it's a clerical error.
Yeah, it has to be a clerical error.
Okay. Just to,
Okay.
it was, I received a request.
Okay.
We won't put it in the wrong place.
Well, I know that, but
We'll correct.
Okay, so at any rate, there being no one who would like to address the board.
I would.
You would, Tom, okay.
I guess the board took over the conversation, forgot we had a public hearing.
Sorry.
Thank you. You know, this happens all the time. I think the chief pointed out some very important facts on 1142 and adding TCD. We don't define what the law is, it's already been stipulated, and he put a definition on that to indicate why this yield sign is probably, like you said, we don't know how they all got up there. They didn't just walk out there, but there are a lot of situations where if you have 2 stop signs and 2 yield signs at an intersection, we're very fortunate somebody didn't pull in that intersection, so they had to right away get hit by a car that had fully stopped at one of the stop signs. So, Chief, I was going to ask you one question. Of course, I thought the microphone was there, but it must be this one. I think it was Seneca and the yacht club where it was basically almost the end of some driveways and there was a yield sign.
Well, there was a road, if you go to the end of Seneca.
Okay.
There was a road that used to come along there.
Okay.
They closed that road. So now there's no need at all for any
Yeah.
signage.
Because there's really no traffic, there's a couple
Well, that
houses.
has nothing to do with the traffic, because that road comes and you either turn right, because you can't go left, you can't go straight.
Or you go in somebody's driveway.
Or you could do that.
So,
So there's no reason for any signage.
But I do think it was also important that, as you stipulated in the public hearing, that not to leave these, continue to leave these signs up if they're supposed to come down because they're a violation of law. The other issue, as we pointed out at the last meeting, was whether you determine as a separate issue now, whether there needs to be another traffic control device, whether it's a stop sign or no sign at all. So, and I think I had sent you an email to Bob Feek, who's a retired traffic engineer.
You did.
I've looked at a couple situations where if the sign comes down, the whole process might have to be altered because you just can't leave the one sign and pull a yield sign down. I think he picked up a couple locations. I didn't look at them, but I could see from what he was saying that there was a unique situation that will be created and that yield sign can be wrong. So,
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want My first question is it legal? Was it Sunset Terrace and Sunset Drive? Those things are given to us by the county. So what is it officially?
It is Sunset Terrace.
It is Sunset Terrace, but the sign is wrong. The street sign is incorrect.
No, just
There.
our,
Just on the list.
Our
Street
list,
sign is
our
correct.
list.
Just the list is incorrect.
Oh, it's listed on here.
Yeah, it's a clerical error.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. So that was one question, because I thought that was going to be a change in the original. So you got 2 issues here. You got a local law that's separate from what you're doing with stop signs. Because the local law is authorizing Joe.
They're postponed, they gotta be.
Right, I'm just clarifying it because I can't hear. Okay, so the local law is going to be postponed and reposted. I didn't read the public hearing completely. I just read the streets.
Actually, that's a good question for council. Do we need to modify this resolution, or can we pass the resolution changing the local law, which will allow the chief to go forward? What is the proper procedure?
Approve what we're doing here, this will change what we've advertised and what we've done. If you want to, what we're going to do in the future with making, with the chief and allowing him more freedom or whatever, that we're going to have to come back and do a public hearing.
Okay. So
Do
if
a
we,
new public hearing.
Yeah.
For the change, okay. Thank you for the clarification.
The other thing, when I was here 2 weeks ago, and I'm not for or against, and this is what I told people when I went door to door. I was not for or against, it was the communication issue. I want you to know, for the cost of paper, we delivered probably between 250 and 300. There were 5 of us that went door to door. On 5, from Saturday, Sunday, Monday, maybe Tuesday, Monday. So it wasn't expensive. We were out there like an hour, hour and a half. A lot of times there weren't people home, which is what always happens. But most people, this was I think I would like to share the response. We've never had a stop sign there before. Why do we need one now? Nobody's going to stop. Nobody's going to know if we're stopping because we need more, sorry, Joe, police presence in our neighborhood.
Need more police than that.
Oh, no, go there. Not with me, you're not gonna go there. Part-time. Anyways, this is what we distributed, and we took it from your public, your posting. And it went very well. People were glad to see us. So I just think, again, I'm going to disagree with you that we couldn't have done something here locally.
I
It
wanna
was
thank you.
not expensive. It was for the cost of this paper, and I will tell you, there were 5 of us that did it, and we were out there at the max 2 hours each.
And I want to thank you for your citizenship and for volunteering to do that, okay? We have Don Bloss and Don Snyder who have donated thousands of hours at this point, I would say, right? In our highway.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I'm just
and
saying, I
I
want to share
appreciate
with
that.
you
Thank
what
you.
we did and how many people listened to us and bringing back the message to you,
Thank you.
And the young man on Gulf Lane, you're putting one on either end. His concern was his Gulf Lane. His concern was his children getting on the school bus and people blowing right through. There's a yield, but nobody ever yields. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay?
Thank you.
Friends, Joe?
You always have that. I don't know what
I just heard the chief whisper to Tracy, if you blow a stop sign, he's probably going to write you a ticket, so I think.
Well, you've got to see it first.
Yeah, I got it. Yes, ma'am, would you like to please, before we close, go ahead.
I just have an issue with someone deciding whether there should be a stop sign there or not when they don't live there.
The chief of police will make that safety recommendation based upon his knowledge of the law and the liability of the town.
He's not going to consider the area where there's not much traffic going through.
The chief, if you
Well,
want to
I
answer
think
the
when
question.
we look at, if you look at these streets, they're all in residential areas, and at different times of day, depends on the amount of traffic that's going through. There may be a couple of areas such as Nancy Avenue and
Yeah.
Hurricane, there's very little traffic, but it's still a key intersection. One of the problems that I see in the town, this is not going to be the last time I come before the town asking, because I'd say about 90% of all of our intersections in residential areas, T intersects, have stop signs. The rest, for some reason, were passed over, never got them. Some of the newer developments we were not on top of, never got them. So you've got stop signs over here, no stop signs over here. When I make a decision, it's based on not only, it's based on traffic, but it's also based on citizens, pedestrians, kids on bicycles, not just cars. It takes one car to hit one bicyclist. And so if you have a T intersect and you just blow through it, and you're not looking both ways, you don't know what's going to happen. And yeah, something may have not happened for years, but knock on wood, it doesn't ever happen at all. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't stop at the intersect. You should stop, look both ways, and then go through. And if that takes you 2-3 seconds out of your day to do it, I don't see why we wouldn't put a stop sign up at every T intersection in the town in residential areas. Because number one, it reduces the liability to your town.
Yes.
And it increases the prevention of possible injury and accidents occurring in that area.
What happened to the decision when I stood up the last time I was up here that they would not put a stop sign there?
We talked about that, and I had a conversation with the chief because I needed some clarification in my mind. I am not, and the board, we're all going to have our say on this, right? My feeling is that we have a very competent police department. We're very lucky, and I say the word blessed, to have a very competent police department in our town. And these men and women are the experts. We pay them to be the subject matter expert on traffic law and safety in our community. And this is the recommendation of our chief of police and of our police department. So I do not know, and I cannot count on knowing more or than our safety experts. So if the chief decides that he wants, or that it's in the best interest of the town and the safety of the public to have a stop sign, I'm not going to argue with
I still say that being able to see around those corners is more of a problem than having a stop sign in.
it. I can't argue that. And Chris, we have our highway superintendent here tonight, and Dave Christian was here at the last meeting, and he said that that the highway department was removing brush and obstacles if there was, for people to see.
Yes.
So, and I think you had pictures, didn't you? There was a tree or something, a
Yes.
neighbor's tree that was in the way and causing a blockage. We can take another look at that. I don't know what we can.
I don't know if Dave didn't tell me about this, but I'm gonna check with him, make sure it's taken care of.
Okay, all right. And I would see Chris. We have a good highway superintendent. Thank you. If they're being, yes, we have another one. Please come on up.
Just real quick, I'm Mr. Dan, and I live on Yucca, and I know it's just a big point move to Yucca, but the problem is now is with the commercial traffic from Lakeshore being not private anymore, and actually, even though you have signs up that say no tractor trailers coming through, the tractor trailers are going to the neighborhood.
Is that a local law, no tractor trailer?
Well, there's signs on the street that says no.
Well, that doesn't mean it was ever adopted.
And I don't know how they got it, I just know the signs have been
You
there.
can't
so-
enforce it unless it's a local law.
Okay.
And something, like I said, there's been signs placed around town that were never adopted by the town board. Somebody requested a sign, I said, okay, put one up, they put it up, not realizing, it's not their fault, not highway's fault or anybody's fault. It's just basically as they put it up, hoping that would deter the problem.
Right.
But it makes it difficult for us to enforce it,
Right.
because it's not a local law.
I understand, so, but if you just take a look at that.
I will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good point. Please.
I just wanted to ask if this,
Thank you.
if it was possible to have more enforcement, like, I know I'm a beach, I always complaining, but like Mud Mill Road and all those roads, because they're a straight road, they don't follow what the speed limits are or anything. And plus, even coming down Lakeshore Road to go into Cicero, I can't tell you how many people don't stop for the stop signs. They just go right in, because obviously they're on their way to work and stuff. So I'd like to see a little bit more enforcement. And I'm not telling you what car I'm driving. Just one of
Thank you very much. I think the chief and I are on the same page with traffic enforcement. Anyone else before I close the public hearing? Then I will now close the public hearing and I will go to seeker. I move for the adoption of a resolution that the amendment section 189-3 of the Town of Cicero Code, stop intersections, calling for the replacement of certain yield signs and the installation of stop signs in their place on some town roadways, as detailed in Exhibit A, attached and made a part thereof, is an unlisted action with a completed EAF environmental survey involving no other permit granting agency outside the town. The proposed change from yield to stop sign changes at these intersections and the necessary installations will not have a significant effect on the environment and therefore does not require the preparation of an EIS.
Second.
Any further board comments on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? And then, Counselor, if we're okay to go ahead with this, to have these changed, I'll move for the adoption of a resolution approving the amendment of section 189-3 of the Town of Cicero Code, approving the replacement of certain yield signs and the installation of stop signs in their place on some town roadways as detailed in Exhibit A, attached and made a part thereof, to be known as Local Law Number 7 of 2018, 2018.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Chris.
Do you want to set the public hearing for another change time?
Why don't we go ahead and do that?
Move the adoption of resolution setting a public hearing on Wednesday, October 10th, 2018, at or about 6:30 p.m. to consider passing a local law to authorize the chief of police to, in conjunction with the highway department and planning board, make determinations regarding the placement of traffic control devices.
Second.
Any further board discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you, Councilor Carter. Dick?
I'm going to move for the adoption of a resolution, set a public hearing on Wednesday, October 10th, 2018, at 6:30 PM to consider passing a local law to exceed 2% tax cap for the 2019 Town of Cicero budget.
To be known as local law, that would be 18, I believe, of 2018.
Okay.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We carry unanimously. Thank you. I'll move for the adoption of a resolution acknowledging the receipt of the preliminary budget by me, the town supervisor, to the board, and the board will then file a preliminary budget with the town clerk.
Second.
Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? And Ms. Castleman, you have a copy of that already. I gave it to you. Thank you. John?
Move the adoption resolution to set a public hearing for Wednesday, October 10th, 2018 at 6:30 PM local time to consider lowering the speed limit on Bartell Road from Brewerton Road east to Cathan Road from the current speed limit of 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour.
Second.
Any board comments or discussion?
Where did this come from? Was this someone who asked for it, or?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and a petition with signatures was filed asking for us to consider it.
I guess I never saw it. When was it filed?
I don't have the date. I know that Jolie would have that, but initially there was some confusion as to whether or not the town controlled that stretch of roadway or the county. I sent the petition and the request to Marty Voss, who is the Onondaga County DOT Commissioner. He looked at it, reviewed it, sent it back to us, and said that because we're a suburban town, this is your issue. But that was the gentleman who owns the diner in Brewerton, in the plaza.
Yes, Cushman.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Pass unanimously. Thank you.
Move the adoption resolution setting a public hearing on October 10th, 2018 at 6:30 PM to consider the adoption of a proposed local law establishing a fee in lieu of parkland contribution for construction of new residential structures in the town, excluding parcels that paid a parkland contribution fee at the time of final plat approval pursuant to the subdivision regulations, Town Code Section 185 et set. The purpose of the proposed legislation is to help maintain existing town parks and establish future parklands and programs in response to increased demands for housing in the town. Although the current subdivision regulations require payment of a fee in lieu of land contribution, there is currently no fee associated with the construction of apartment buildings outside the subdivision process. The proposed fee is $500 per approved apartment unit. All monies collected shall be deposited in one or more separate accounts as provided by law, to be used only for capital expenditures related to public recreation in the town of Cicero. Expenditures from the fund or funds so established shall be made by the town board after recommendations by the Parks and Recreation Commission. Payments in lieu of parkland shall be made prior to the issuance of the building permit. This local law shall be effective upon filing with the Secretary of State.
I'm going to second that. And John, this was your child, if you will, so if you want to speak to it.
Well, yeah, actually, this is a companion to the next one. We already have some fees for payments in lieu of parkland contributions for houses in subdivisions. That's $485, and we didn't have any for apartments that were in subdivisions. We'll be doing that in the next resolution after this. That we could do without a local law. This one, for apartments outside of a subdivision, cannot be done without a local law, so we're going to be setting a public hearing. Basically, if someone wants to build an apartment complex outside of a subdivision, they're going to have to pay a one-time fee of $500 per apartment unit, so that can add up pretty quickly, into a special fund to pay for capital improvements to our parks. This is in lieu of them contributing parkland, because in reality, if we just had them give us land, and we could end up with useless land or land that we would have to maintain and we wouldn't serve any purpose. So really, this works out much better for the residents and for, frankly, for everybody, for the taxpayers. Now, right now, we charge $485 for a house for a single family unit within a subdivision. We don't charge anything for an apartment unit within a subdivision. Currently, the town of Clay charges $50 for an apartment unit, which I think is on the low side. The towns of Lysander and Camillus charge $500, which is what we're going to be charging, and the town of DeWitt charges $1,000, which I think is probably on the high side. So this is really putting us in line with a lot of similarly sized towns in the area.
And the other thing to remember too with this, and I'm in favor of this, Cicero's growing, it's going to continue growing, and there are people who want to build new homes that have approached us. There are people who want to build market rate apartments. quite frankly, you know, the apartment dwellers have children too, and they use our parks. We have a very popular and well-used park program, and all we're doing is we're asking the apartment dwellers and those folks who live in apartment buildings to contribute to the upkeep of parks that they use. Any other comments on that? Thank you, Jen. It was a nice job.
Wouldn't this come from the developer though?
Yes.
The
Yep.
fees come from the developer,
Yeah.
not from the apartment.
And it's a one-time fee, so.
Right. And it would be active as of tonight.
Well, it's filed with the Secretary of State, yeah.
Okay. So that any further applications, permits that are filed for future apartments that would apply?
Yes, that's with respect to the ones outside of the subdivision. Because the next resolution is effective without a local law, I would expect that that would be effective immediately upon passage for item number 12.
Okay. Thank you.
So, all right, we had a second on that, and again, nice job, John. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously, and Council Crum.
Move the adoption resolution to increase the subdivision park fee from $485 per building lot to $500 per building lot, and to establish a park fee of $500 per multiple family dwelling unit or per apartment unit.
Second. Any further board discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you.
Move for the adoption of a resolution to modify the existing contract with Hancock Estabrook LLP to include FOIL services and to allow the supervisor to execute the agreement.
A second.
Any board comments or discussion?
Yes. What is going to be the cost to the town?
It stays with the normal contract, and I believe anything above and beyond the retainer, I believe it's $200 an hour is what we're currently paying.
And what exactly are they going to be doing with this FOIL? I mean, that obviously is, FOILs are filed with Tracy,
Right.
and then what happens?
Well, we have a problem here in the town of Cicero, and we're trying. One of the things we're trying to do is put that problem to bed. We have an individual in the town of Cicero who foils this town on a regular basis, on more than a regular basis, and some of the foils, the confusion that we have, it's caused some confusion because number one, this particular person asks for all sorts of stuff. And I'm not an expert on this, and Tracy handles them and she'll continue to handle them. But it caused two problems. Number one, the load of FOIL requests coming in, asking, and I'm being a little bit facetious here, but not much, asking for everything from people's payroll records to stuff that goes way back to I don't know what. It disrupts two things. Disrupts the workflow here. It puts a real burden on our clerk's office. And quite frankly, the last FOIL request that we received, when other people and females read it, it singled out, was precluded. There was a paragraph that kind of precluded the FOIL request that asked for all sorts of stuff about people who aren't even employees of this town. The women who read it, and it was directed at a woman, told me that they felt it was threatening. And at that point, we felt that two things. Number one, we are not experts on what has to go in and out of this building. Although Tracy Cosselman is probably one of the best town clerks in the county, she was making a lot of phone calls to Albany to ask, is this allowable, is this not allowable, as well as multiple phone calls were being made to our town attorney, and that is not his field of expertise. So in light of the fact that I had employees tell me that they felt that this was threatening, that this person who was doing this has kind of crossed a line and now become threatening, I asked the board for their permission to, so what will happen is this, FOIL will come in, and Ms. Cosselman will forward that FOIL request to Hancock and Estabrook. They have assigned an attorney to it. That attorney will review it, and that attorney will advise us as to what is foilable, what is not foilable. Some things are, contain personal records and personal information about people that legally we probably can't even let go. So until we get this thing sorted out, the thought is number one, because now we feel we have someone who's actually crossed the line and is threatening in his FOIL requests, and we wanted clarification from a competent legal entity or authority as to what we should be sending out. Some of this information is your stuff, so that's where this came from.
What's the projected cost of that service?
I don't know. I'm hoping.
How many hours that Tracy spends on it, right?
Oh my gosh, you could ask Tracy. I mean, it's. I know there's an awful lot of hours, and it goes
But
beyond.
now they become billable hours.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, they do, and actually, we have the right. I think, in Mr. Germain, you can correct me if I'm wrong. If there's a cost associated to those FOILs, I think we have a legal right to be able to bill it. So if I'm paying $200 for an hour to have an attorney review these FOILs and write the response, we have a right to bill that to the people who do that, okay? So I think it protects us, because currently I think we're only allowed like 25 cents a page or something. It's ridiculous.
I don't think the law allows us to bill the FOIL requester for attorney
No.
services during the FOIL.
Absolutely.
I
I don't know, if we can't, then we can't, but I can tell you, we can bill what the hours would be for Tracy's folks to do that. I don't have clarification, John may be right, so I'm not going to misspeak if I misspoke. But I think we need to put this thing to bed, and I have a very strong belief that it's my responsibility and this board's responsibility to protect our employees and vendors.
Last question, where's the money coming from? We don't have it budgeted, do we?
We have money in the, we have a legal budget. Yes, we do. We budget for our legal services. Part of that is projection, right?
I don't find this to be necessary, and I won't be voting no.
Well, that's fine. Any other board comments or suggestions? Then I'll ask, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And let's, actually, Tracy, I'll call for a roll call vote because we have some names. So please, would you call for a roll call on
Of
this?
course. Counselor Boyke
No.
and Counselor Cushman?
Yes.
Aye.
Yeah. 61 to Coleman Industries Incorporated, $43,096.15 to Corin, Maine, $16,700 to facial accessories for bond preparation, and $9,225 to Oric for bond counsel.
Correct all those numbers, Mark.
95.
Okay, it's 95.25 to work for bond counsel, 16,750 just for clarification to fiscal advisors, 43.96.15 to Corin, Maine, and 22,840.61 to Callahan Industries.
Second.
Any further board discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We pass unanimously. Thank you.
Site construction contract adjustment. Whereas the town of Cicero, herein referred to as the town board, intends to construct a highway facility at 6658 New York State Route 31, town of Cicero. MRB Group completed design plans for the site improvement need for the highway facility. At the time of the award, the alternate for placing additional stone to the south and west of the paved area was not accepted. Upon further discussion, it was decided to proceed with that alternate, including the associated cost of JBS dirt and material costs from Callahan Industries Incorporated. Whereas the cost of JBS dirt incorporated is $80,700, and for the cost of the stone is $40,950, for a total cost of $121,650. This work includes purchase of the stone, alternate price, along with hauling, including additional mileage for travel, and placement of fabric and stone by the contractor. Now therefore be resolved that the town accept the increase in the contract for JBS Dirt Incorporated in the amount of $80,700, and the increase in the material amount to Callahan Industries Incorporated in the amount of $40,950. Appropriate change orders to be authorized by Callahan Industries Incorporated and JBS Dirt Incorporated. The town board further resolves that the supervisor be authorized to sign the change order and appropriate documents for this contract.
Second.
Any board comments or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Sorry.
You got that one? Okay. You can have it if you want.
Go ahead.
Site construction contract adjustment. Whereas the town of Cicero, hereafter referred to as the town board, intends to construct the highway garage at 6658 New York State Route 31, town of Cicero. MRB Group completed design plans for the site improvement needed for the highway facility upon JBS Dirt Incorporated completed excavation trenching for the sanitary sewer line from the oil water separated to the street wet well location. The rock elevation was higher than anticipated based on a pre-bid test pits. The rock needed to be removed to allow for the installation of the sanitary sewer. Whereas the quantity of rock was needed to be removed was unknown, so the contractor provided a unit price for rock removal, which is $100 per cubic yard, along with $1,200 for mobilization of appropriate equipment. The price is in line with rock removal costs. To avoid delays, JBS Dirt was authorized to remove the rock to install a utility at the proper grade and elevation at the unit price. The total quantity of the rock removed was 105.4 cubic yards for a total cost of $11,740. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board accept the increase in the contract of JBS Dirt Incorporated in the amount of $11,740 to cover the expense of rock removal. Appropriate change order to be authorized for JBS Dirt Incorporated. The town board further resolves that the supervisor be authorized to sign the change order and appropriate documents for this contract.
Second.
Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We carry unanimously. Thank you.
Here.
CDS Housing. Whereas Cicero Commons Partners, LLC, is in the process of selling a portion of land to CDS Senior Living Housing Development Fund Corporation. And whereas when the original large parcel was sold, the town of Cicero retained certain lease rights to an unspecified portion of land sold to the Cicero Local Development Corporation by deed dated May 24, 1999, whereby the town of Cicero reserved the right to lease a portion of the Cicero Commons property to be used for a new town hall by the town without specifying the location, rent, or lease terms. Said terms were to be later agreed upon, and whereas a copy of the deed, reservations, and maps for the CDS parcel having been provided to the board, and whereas the town of Cicero has no immediate plan or desire to lease a portion of the proposed CDS property for use as a new town hall, and whereas the rights contained therein still encumber the parcel as a title defect, and it is hereby resolved that the town of Cicero approve the parcel waiver and release the proposed and further authorize the supervisor to execute the documents.
Second.
Any board comments or discussion?
Mr. Jermaine?
Someone explain it?
This is essentially an option to lease.
Yeah, when the town originally sold the property to the Development Corporation, I had to go back and look at this, but when they sold it originally, and we've done this almost every time there's been something in there, the town retained the right to build a future town hall there
Right.
with no specification as to where and so on. So, they've already actually closed, but it's a title defect, so you're giving up, at least on this part of the CBS property, the right to have a town hall there.
So that means that we no longer have any options over there if
No,
in
only
the
with
future?
regard to the CBS, the property that CBS owns.
But it still remains that the town still has that option to lease, rent, or
On the
somewhere
rest
over
of
there.
the lease property for the purpose of building a town hall.
Okay.
This option essentially has no value, so there's no problem giving it up.
Right, that I can see.
I mean, is it even a valid option if it's like an agreement to agree?
It hasn't, they've already closed anyway
Yeah.
with all this, so that's how important it is.
Thank you.
We are getting 50 units. I think 40 of them will be subsidized senior housing units. for seniors who want to remain in the town of Cicero. It's something that I think we can all agree that we're in dire need of senior housing.
The other 10 are for people with special needs, right?
And 10 units will be for
Seniors with special needs.
seniors with special needs, yes. So I think it's a great project for anyone who does it. Anyway, that being said, any other board comments? We'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you. The next one is Seneca Savings Bank. We have an opportunity to put a bank, or have a bank be built at no cost to us in Bridgeport. Bridgeport, for those of you who are familiar with it, I look at Bridgeport as a needs community. We need a grocery store. I've worked on trying to get one, as I'm sure others have as well. I tried to get Green Hills when they went out of business. I called the owners and asked them if they would please come here and build a grocery store, and then, and I've talked to a couple of others, but one of the things that they don't have there is they don't have a bank. So by giving this next resolution and agreeing that a bank is needed in that community, and they do, they need a bank, it'll allow the Seneca Savings Bank to apply to the government for a banking development district loan. So they'll get a special rate if in part we approve this, and I think we should. So I'll move for the adoption to approve the following resolution, and I will read it in its entirety. Whereas the town of Cicero is desirous of Seneca Savings opening a full-service branch office in the hamlet of Bridgeport, Seneca Savings will provide a source of capital for local businesses, which promotes job creation. Banks are a source of capital for mortgages, which increases home ownership and allows home improvement. Banks are a number of unbanked and underbanked New Yorkers, enhance access to credit for consumers and small businesses, reduce the reliance on alternative providers of financial services, and promote an asset-building consciousness. Whereas it is the intent of Seneca Savings and the town of Cicero to apply in conjunction for the designation of the BDD area, which would be Bridgeport. Whereas the town of Cicero acknowledges Seneca Savings' intent to open a full-service banking facility in Bridgeport, New York. The town of Cicero also acknowledges that without the appropriate New York State BDD designation and approval by the state of New York, Seneca Savings would not be able to attract enough retail deposits to become a viable office over the short term. Whereas the town of Cicero and Seneca Savings is desirous of proper and appropriate New York State BDD designation approval. Whereas the town of Cicero will not prohibit other financial institutions from opening a branch and will not prohibit other banks from receiving approval for an additional BDD designation. It is resolved of the town of Cicero to enter into this resolution. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor? Yes.
Where's it gonna be?
This bank will be located on the other side of the river in Madison County.
Why are we approving it then?
Because the town, or the hamlet of Bridgeport needs a bank. And I would rather have, I think we would all agree that it's best to have a bank. I asked them, I want the tax revenue. I'm not, you all know me, I want the tax revenue for this building, but they had already secured property when they came to me, so it was too late for me to try to twist their arm, although I did anyway, to get them to build over here, but they had purchased it.
But
Yes.
the area of the banking development district would be both town of Cicero and town of Cicero. Is that why we're doing it too?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because it's going to serve all the residents there.
Okay, that makes sense.
And Madison County is obviously already gone ahead with this? Sullivan?
I was told that they are, but I have not spoken to them personally. I don't see why they wouldn't want to do it.
No, I know, but it's confusing.
More money. Go to casino.
It's just confusing as to it's not being built in the town of Cicero, yet we're approving
It'll
it.
serve a lot of the
Oh, I
residents.
understand.
For the town of Cicero.
It's better to have a
Probably.
bank than no bank.
I assume it's probably kind of a radius around the bank, and that's why. Yeah, that makes sense.
Any other board comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you. Dick?
Move for the adoption resolution to approve Francis Audiovisual in the amount of $12,703.42 to install a new audio system for the town hall meeting room.
Second.
Yay. And I will have Brett Freeman here, who was a big part of that, and also Tracy Cosman was a part. We have in this building, you guys, for those of you who don't attend regularly, we're looking at 1980s here, technology, and our courts also use this, and they were required to record all of their proceedings. So what we needed was, this wasn't working. There's actually a lot of advantages to this. Francis Audio Visual was the low bidder. That's the good thing. Okay, yes, it's expensive, but here's the benefit to us for it. It is compatible, fully compatible with the court's needs. So in that sense, we have dual use, and we will. This system is going to allow us all of these meetings to be recorded digitally and then transferred to the town's website. So people will be able to listen to the town board meetings at their leisure. They will be able to Wayne, I got Wayne here to shake your head if I'm missing something. It'll also allow us for you to podcast it. So if you want to download this to your mobile device or to your home computer, whatever, listening at leisure, that's good, right? So we are being more transparent. It took us a while to get here because we had to find the proper system, okay? Sometimes you got to do the due diligence. The other advantage is now we've eliminated about 6 hours a week in the town clerk's office, because no longer will she have to word for word for word for word for word on the minutes, because they will be available and you will have an official record. So I think that's all good stuff. The problem we had with it last time, Wayne, and thank you for all of your work on this, was that there was a concern about do we have enough room on our server to handle these files. We don't have we don't have deep pockets, and we try to be very frugal with your dollar. Okay? But we resolved that. Thank you, Wayne, because we're going to put we don't have to do anything with the servers. We are going to use a portable device, okay, that will work with that, right? So it doesn't hamper or hurt any of our server type of stuff. So we can do that right away. There have been people, and I mentioned this at the last meeting. We have other people here tonight. I'm going to say it again. There's been a small number of people who says, well, you should be videoing. We have some private here do it, but the town's not doing it. You should be videoing these meetings, and you should be putting it out there. Legitimate concern. I have an issue with it. Number one, we have regularly, not tonight, we have Boy Scouts, we have Girl Scouts, we have Eagle Scouts, and we are putting, and the police department agreed with me on this. I have an issue with putting, and I've had parents talk to me about this, young adolescents' names, faces, and Cub Scout packs, Girl Scout troops on social media. Because unfortunately, we live today in a world that is just not nice in many cases. So I am not in favor of that. And then I think someone made a comment, well, the school board does it. Well, the school board's filming adults. But, we have more than adults here on a regular basis. And normally we have students here as well. So I'm not in favor of doing that because of the liability and the safety of our children. However, I think this is a good fix to make us more transparent and give people an opportunity to listen to the meeting, if not, and I'm not good to look at anyway. I'm fun to look at. So at any rate, that's my thought on that. Anything you want to add to that, Wayne? Did you want to say anything about the audio system?
We're going to a wireless system. Board members up on the podium will have portable wireless microphones. Tracy has one right here. There'll be the same microphones on the table for the department heads. This will make things much easier for us, and we won't have the problem with continual connections being connected and disconnected, which has probably been our main problem over the years with things breaking. This will allow us that if we have a different type of meeting in here, when they have a table set up and they need to record planning board or one of those other meetings, just take your microphones and set them down there. I think you're going to be very happy.
Will our board have tablets?
I beg your pardon?
Will each of you have a tablet so that you can work and have all the information necessary that you have now within paper?
I don't like paper. I think the folks who work with me here will tell you that I hate paper. But no, we're not going to spend your money to buy tablets at this point.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Right, we could move it to the senior center if we had a meeting there.
If you had a meeting in the senior center, that would be something we would get a portable system. We asked about that. This isn't something we are going to want to disconnect and go move. This is going to be wired in with new speakers, new connections over here for audio recording. but Tracy it was very important that she asked about that. And we could get with proper notice a very inexpensive solution if you have to move the meeting to a senior center, to the fire department, or some bigger location.
Are you talking about renting that solution on if
Renting for a very short term,
Okay.
hours.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the audio system from the board? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Passed unanimously. Thank you. John?
Move the adoption resolution to appoint Amy K. Vendette as permanent full-time assistant youth development program leader at the canteen from the civil service list to replace Tom Beasley at a pay rate of $18.36 per hour effective October 9th, 2018.
Second.
Any board comments or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you.
Move for the adoption of a resolution to approve the following purchase is for the Highway Department, $3,550 to suit coat for 300 gallons of crack seal, budget code DB511242.
Second.
Any board comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We carry unanimously. Again, thank you.
Move the adoption of the resolution to approve $6,175 to Native American Tree Experts Incorporated for the removal and stump grinding of 6 trees, 3 ash trees and 3 willow trees for safety reasons, budget code A7150.42.
Second. I'll give a second to Mr. Cushman. Any comments? All those in favor? Yes.
Quick question, Joe, where are these trees?
William Park,
Thank you.
all at William Park.
Any further comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We pass unanimously. Thank you. Dick?
Surplus. Move the adoption of a resolution to declare the attached list of items from the police department surplus and of no use to the town. I do have a question. Which, are we going to auction these off anyway, or just junk them, or what?
Some of the items are auctionable, the others must be destroyed.
Okay, and you'll make that.
You'll get a list of the stuff that go, if we decide any of it's going to auction, you'll get a list of that.
Okay,
County auction?
County auction, correct.
okay, thank you.
Good question. Any other board comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Pass unanimously. Thank you.
Who seconded
Aye.
that?
Thank
Judy.
you.
Judy did, yeah. Judy?
Removal of the police department building. Move for the adoption of a resolution to declare the old police department building surplus and of no use to the town. Information will be available shortly regarding the removal of the building from the site. I have a question.
Can we get a second? I'll second it. Go ahead.
Okay. Did this go out for bid?
It's going to go out to bid.
Okay.
We just have to decide, we have actually 2 trailers. We have a double wide and a single wide, right? And,
That are attached back there?
yeah,
Okay, yes, I knew that.
I guess
but
it's,
Because we had originally bid to have the trailer removed out of Bridgeport, so that was my question.
Yep, we are going to put it out to bid.
yep.
Okay, so would that be part of it then, that it would be, should that be part of it?
That'll be put out to bid. I don't, do we need to add that, Counselor, or is this resolution okay as it is? It is going out to bid.
When it goes out to bid, you're gonna have to do a resolution putting it out to bid, so you can add it now.
Why don't we add it right now? So we can modify this, we can move for the adoption resolution. Well, go ahead, John, it's yours.
So you're gonna authorize the town to authorize bids for the removal.
All right, so we move for adoption of resolution to authorize the town to go out for bids for the removal of the police department buildings surplus at this time.
That's
Second.
sufficient?
Yep.
Any other board comments or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? We again pass unanimously. We come now to the discussion part. I had one issue tonight. We've talked about sidewalks in the town of Cicero. The problem we had is initially we looked at, and you know, we just put a lot of new sidewalks in Route 11 all the way from Bear Road up to about 200 feet north of Codnoy Road. It is my desire and the board's desire to put additional sidewalk on Route 31 that'll run east of the high school to Thompson Road, Torchwood. I've already received a grant from Assemblyman Sturpey. More money is forthcoming, and I think there's some, and we've already authorized, the board had authorized our engineer, O'Brien Gear, Steve Snell, and Steve, still waiting, okay? But anyway, to go ahead and design that and then tell us what we need to do. But that leads a problem that we discovered, or actually I've been thinking about for quite some time and brought to the board. We have a real liability issue with sidewalks in the town. And I'm talking about snow removal. And we explored legally the option of setting up a sidewalk district. So we would establish, our original thought was we would establish a sidewalk district, and then a fee would be levied against all of the folks who had, or adjoining property owners or whatever, to hire out a service to do this, because we have more sidewalks than our highway department can handle. We have an antiquated sidewalk snow machine, Chris, that our mechanics told us last year was on its last legs. To replace that is $180,000, which is a very expensive proposition, right? So what I'm concerned about, what we're concerned about, is the liability to the town. We have sidewalks that do not abut to personal property or to commercial property. And how many times have all of us who live here have seen kids or people walking in the road because the sidewalks aren't done? Under Route 481, under Route 81, you know, we have stretches that we're responsible for. And if someone got killed because the sidewalk wasn't maintained, the liability to the town today, your guess is as good as mine. But I'm going to guess we're on the astronomical side, right? So, at any rate, I had asked Mr. Germain to see if we could establish a district. Unfortunately, because we are not a city like Rochester or the city of Syracuse, we are a suburban town. Do you want to tell us, do you want to add to that? We're not allowed to do that, right?
It's a very long story, but
Give us the Heinz story, or the encapsulated vision.
when the town has the ability to create new districts, and when that district is being created, maintenance can be part of it. But in terms of creating just a separate maintenance district with adjoining properties, we're not allowed to. We don't have that ability.
We can't do that. So, all right, well, that's not going to work, so what do we do? What we did last year is, with our code enforcement people, sent letters out to all of the property owners and businesses that have sidewalks that abut to their property. We do have a law in the books that says it is the property owner's responsibility to keep that sidewalk clear. It's the only mechanism we had, and unfortunately, it's the only mechanism we're going to have going forward. However, so we will send letters out beginning October 1st, reminding all of the folks who have sidewalks abutting their property that it is their responsibility to keep them clean, and that we will enforce it, and we will enforce it. Last year, we sent, I think, 19 violation notices for people who, first we sent a notice, then we did a personal visit to the businesses and the homeowners to make sure they understood and they got the notice and what was required by law. 17 people were scofflaws and decided they weren't going to do that. So we actually cited them and asked them to come to court, and then the sidewalks got done. So what we're going to have to do is the people who have sidewalks are going to be required to keep them clean, and most people they understand, and they'll do that. But what we're going to have to do, what I would like to do, is put together a bid or a contract where those areas that are not abutting to someone's property, under the bridges, the 481, that type of stuff, that we have someone come in and do that. And I was on the phone with Andrew Trombley, who is writes contracts for the county. We use the county to write our contracts. Andrew has come up with a contract that, if the board approves this, or, contract language, and our attorney approves it, we'll go with it. And then also our codes people have come up with a list of how many feet we'll have to go out to bid. I think that's probably the least expensive and the best way to do it. So we have snow removal every time we need it. So anyway, that's kind of the thought on this. And that's kind of where we are with sidewalks. I know it was a concern of not only mine, but other board members as well, to minimize the liability to the town of Cicero and make our town safer. So anyway, more to come on that as we get a contract and we get some more information, and then we'll run it past y'all and we'll see if we can go with it. At this time, is there anything else that anyone would like to cover? Nope, we all good? Okay, yes, sir. Well, that's public discussion, and you're next, so come on. Loretta.
Thank you. I'm Roy Carrera. Oh, there you go. My name's Roy Carrera. I live up in Brewerton, Bartell Circle, and we just wanted to.
Can you have we have a microphone? I don't have a microphone.
There's a mic.
Just so people can hear you, Mr. Carrera.
Okay.
The microphone's that little tiny.
Hold it up.
How's that?
Moving up to, pick up the little mic on the end of it. No, you can pick it right up. We're moving into the 21st century. We're gonna get there.
How's that?
Can you hear me? Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're here today with a few neighbors just to introduce briefly a petition against 5871 Bartell Circle, which is currently operating as an Airbnb in a residential neighborhood. And we just wanted to briefly summarize this petition that we've had signed by approximately 20 neighbors or 20 houses in the immediate area. For the past 3 or 4 years, the property next door has been operating all year round as an Arab bed and breakfast. As advertised on the Airbnb website, the house is rented by the night with a 2-night minimum stay. Typically during the summer, the house is rented for a week at a time, and then during the rest of the year, it's rented by the night or by the weekend. The property owners live on the West Coast in Oregon and California. The property owners stay in the house with their family approximately 2 to 3 long weekends per year, but that's it. They are not there when the house is rented. The Airbnb website lists this property as an expansive custom lake estate sleeping up to 26 people. With bachelor parties, wedding celebrations, large family reunions, high school, college fraternity reunions, etc. There have been crowds exceeding 50 people, $25 per night, and the owner's annual gross for renting this property is over $90,000. The owner's profit has come at the expense of the surrounding neighbors. The neighborhood residents have been subject to excessive traffic, trespassing, property damage, loud noise, music late into the evenings, during the weekends, and during our normal work weeks and nights. So we're here today to introduce a petition signed by the residents who live near the Airbnb that believe their property values are negatively affected as a result of the operation of this large Airbnb in our once quiet and peaceful neighborhood. The residents who have signed this petition pay a total of approximately $300,000 in school and property taxes. Back in February of this year, my neighbors filed a written complaint with the Code Enforcement Office alleging a violation of the Cicero zoning laws. Specifically, our neighborhood is zoned as an R10 residential use district. It's clear that zoning section 21010 for agricultural districts does permit tourist homes and bed and breakfasts. And it is clear in section 21012 for commercial districts that it permits motels and hotels. It is also very clear that section 21011, applicable to our residential district, does not specifically list tourist homes, bed and breakfasts, motels, or hotels as a permitted use. The 210-4 definition of residential use does include tourist homes. The 210-4 definition of a tourist home or bed and breakfast reads, a dwelling in which overnight accommodation is provided for not more than 12 transient guests for compensation. As I indicated earlier, this property advertises overnight accommodations for 26 transient guests, clearly exceeding this code allowable limit. So we do not see any gray areas in these zoning laws related to this subject. So we do not understand why this Airbnb has been continued to allowed by the town to continue operating after our first complaint written back in February and after several follow-on phone calls to the zoning office.
Finally, our petition requests that the town immediately enforce the zoning laws as currently written by imposing the laws of paragraph 21035, citing this Airbnb for the violation of the code and shutting it down.
May I ask you, what response did you receive from code enforcement when you filed this complaint?
I can answer that.
Yes,
You want to-
Sharon,
the
trade
complaint
emails
came
back
from-
and forth. She's got emails,
My name is
packages.
Sharon Finelli, I live 2 doors down from the property. I called Rich Hooper initially to make our complaint. And what triggered our complaint, or particularly mine and my husband's complaint, is property damage. With people driving like right across our front yard, houses in a row. So I called Rich Hooper and I explained the process to him. And he said that at that time, when I explained what was happening, he was in complete agreement that it was not an allowable business with the town law. So then I followed up with an email to him, and this was in February. And he said, what he said to me was, I have your filed complaint, we will research it. We are receiving your complaint regarding the property at 5871 Bartow Circle. This complaint has been assigned to an officer to investigate. Thank you, Richard. February 12th. Then in April, we had another incident. Both the February incident and the April incident was reported to Rich Hooper and to the Cicero Police Department, who was very helpful to us. So after that, my responses, which I have in the packet, I have a packet for town. His answer to me every time I brought an incident to him was, we're investigating it, our attorneys will check it out, we'll get back to it. This isn't going to be something that's fixed overnight, it will take several months, our attorneys are researching it, more to follow. So it got to the point where we continued to have incidents, and it got to the point where the answer was always our attorneys are researching. So here we are starting in February, we are in September. The 300,000 that Roy talked about is just the signers on the petition. It's not even the area. It's just the touring houses that we talked about. So it's a pretty high tax revenue area. People take pride in their homes. So that's kind of to answer your question. That's how the complaint was
Okay,
filed.
and you have copies of all these
I do.
emails?
And I have a packet for the town, and in that packet includes the petition, includes pictures of the type of property damage and the actual camera videotape I provided to the Cicero Police Department. So they have, my husband on the camera, so they have the video cameras of the incidents that happened on our property. I have a copy of the way the property is advertised on Airbnb, the price per night, how they advertise, kind of like a motel. Gotta check in by 11, get your keys, out by a certain time, the cleaning crew comes in, and then the next day the group comes in. So I have a copy of that for you. And I have a copy of my email exchanges with Richard.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you and I had a conversation last week, and thank you for coming in with a petition that I had asked for. I had talked to, and we're going to look at this because it's bigger as the conversation that you and I had. Just for all of you out there, I think the time has come to take a look at this. You and I had talked about it, our council. I don't know the he said, she said with Richard Hooper, but I did talk to Richard. And I think there's confusion as to what I'm not an attorney, I'm not a judge, but I'm very empathetic and sympathetic to what we're trying to do because it needs to be addressed. But I don't think it's as clear cut that these are prohibited, the current use is prohibited. I'm not convinced of that. You and I had a talk about that as the code is currently written. So not knowing what Richard said, he said, she said, or our code enforcement people, but what I'd like to do, and I'm glad you brought it to us, we have, this needs to be addressed, and I'm going to ask, John, you're an attorney, thank you for helping us, and I know that you will, but we need to take a good look at this because I know that we've had instances where we had nude bathers, we've had wild, and this was just brought to my attention within the last probably 7 business days or less. But we also have folks who rent their homes on a long-term basis along the lake, So I don't want to, I think we need to be careful as a board and, that we don't penalize people who are renting their homes on a long-term summer rentals. But I agree with you that something needs to be done before this spins out of control all over the town. So that being said,
Why don't we set a public hearing not for the next board meeting, give us more time, maybe for the October 24th board meeting, and let and all have a chance to talk to Mr. Germain about what our, I don't know if we have plenary authority to regulate rentals or what our limitations are.
This is an issue that's come up in a lot of places. It's not just you guys, obviously. It's in a lot of towns. Sorry, I'm talking to the board. This is an issue that comes up in a lot of places, not just here. It's in a lot of towns. I have some model ordinances that we can look at that will enable us to, it's going to be, it's obviously going to be a town board decision which direction you want to go, whether, ban Airbnbs or, so on. Bed and breakfasts are different because there's someone there, right? That's a big difference in the legislation. I have model legislation for 2 different directions that the board might want to go that I'll supply.
Well, when I spoke to the town zoning, wherever, who's ever in charge of town zoning in Casanova, and I did not reference the town of Cicero, but when I did ask them, because I knew that they were having a series of public hearings also. And
I happen to have been involved in that.
okay, so when I asked him what he said to me, though, what I found interesting was he said it was only being entertained in a commercial village area. He goes, if you were on a lake, if you were in a town on a lake, it's not even up for discussion, which is similar to our situation. We're not talking about a village, we're talking about the town.
I don't want to get off topic, but that's exactly what happened. So the village took it up as legislation, and the town didn't want to, because they didn't want to ban it.
And they want to have it, right. So is it not apples, so looking at Casanova and Skinny Atlas is not apples to apples, it's more apples to oranges, because they have a commercial village area that can have this. They don't allow it in their town, which is similar to what we had in Cicero. But I said, if you were to use, I said, what about your average lakefront properties in Casanova? He said, it wouldn't even be considered. And the other part of it would be, it needs to be owner occupied in order to even qualify.
That's a big qualifier.
Right. So he went through that. So it was educating to me because, one, to let me know what they're doing, and 2, it reinforced they're not even considering it in a situation like our lake houses.
I've been through it much.
So one of the things that, I'll just give you an example, one of the things that, when we talk about property damage and trespassing, we're talking about things like constantly pulling in your driveway. We're constantly on your parking on your property. We had a 3 o'clock in the morning incident where a van, 3 o'clock in the morning, come right onto our driveway. It was right smack between me and you, where my front door to where they parked, got out, flashlights, at my house. Not exactly what you want at 3 o'clock in the morning, a van, a guy getting out, all on camera, Cicero Police Department has it. But it's like, it's craziness now, and it's only, we're 2 doors down, poor Roy's house, he gets to see it all. So it's about time that, that we don't suffer, and it defaults to protecting us, not defaults to protecting the business.
Can I offer that in the interim, while you're trying to figure out exactly what to do to address the big picture?
It won't take me long.
Okay, but it's very clear, black and white, by the definition of the zoning definition of a bed and breakfast or a tourist home, that they are exceeding, at least as a minimum, the 12 people allowance.
Yeah.
I mean, they're advertising for 26 people, and I'll tell you, they put 26 people in that house easy.
Yeah.
They just added an addition in their basement, and they lined it with bunk beds. Don't know if they have a permit for that.
They have nooks and crannies in the house that they
So,
put a
in
date
the interim, we just want to stop the craziness to at least reduce the numbers and cite them for exceeding the definition of a
I'll meet with Mr. Germain, and I just want to make sure that everything we do is proper and that we are adhering to the letter of the law, right? So, and I am very empathetic to your cause. So, I'll talk to Mr. Germain tomorrow. We'll get clarification on that. If the code in fact is being violated, then I will ask our code department to notify the owner of that. Okay. So that much. You're in on this, Robert. You're hearing what I'm saying?
I am.
So we'll talk about this tomorrow, and I'd like you to come up with some recommendations to us. We'll do a public hearing. We have to do that when we change the law or make a law. To Council Carp's point.
If the law has to be changed, then even if the law doesn't have to be changed, then we wouldn't have.
Well, I think there's two questions here. One is the enforcement of the current zoning regulations. The second is going to be new local law regulating rentals of short-term rentals and medium-term rentals of residential parcels. So I think there's really two issues here. I mean, I don't have the zoning code in front of me. It sounds from what he's saying that it certainly is a violation and it shouldn't take a long time of research to determine that, certainly not months. But I do think that if this is an issue, you know, and the Airbnb does make it very easy for people to rent out properties, that it is something that we should look at with an ordinance. And since Mr. Jermaine already has model ordinances, we really just need to see how they fit into Cicero if they need any modification. So why don't we set the public hearing for October 24th?
Number, right? I
You
think
can
you
look
left it
this
with
up,
me.
yep.
Yeah, so, and I think you left me a message with your number,
Yes.
because I'm not good with paper, my
Okay.
secretary will tell you that.
I
Okay, so,
can, give you, I can jot down my number.
okay, yeah, do that, and so we'll take a look at that ordinance tomorrow, if in fact, everything works out, then, you know, but yeah, we're okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else?
Should we give your package to Tracy?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Sharon?
Sherry did.
You
Should
should
we give that
give
to
your
the town
package
clerk?
of paperwork to.
She has it.
You have copies?
Sure.
Yeah, give it to
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else before we close? There being no one, I make a motion that we close the public hearing. Do you have something before we
I
close?
just wanted to ask. I know it's not on the agenda, it's on planning board or something, but I just want to ask a question, because this is the second time I've seen it. When developers come in and start doing something while the planning board hasn't approved something. So could you keep that in mind, because that's what's happening. I'm having problems with the stock of business and
No, I
stuff.
understand.
But
Are you
they're-
referring?
They're preparing everything, because I was up there yesterday. But at the same time, the planning board hasn't approved it.
Yeah, I
And
look.
this is not the first time that this has happened. And I hate to disillusion you.
No,
but
good
Mr.
question.
Hoover doesn't pay attention to people.
Well-
He did the same thing with Conjo. Because we're like, it was just a quick thing. I was at the animal hospital and I saw somebody clearing a whole area across on Route 11. And I said, gee, what's going in? And nobody knew. And I called them and they said, it's Conjo, he's going to put his bolts. And then when I called and I said, did he do a site plan? No, he hasn't put it in yet.
And we stopped him. We stopped him. So let me just.
The point is,
Yeah.
somebody else is going to start stopping things.
Well, no, I'm going to answer your question about the soccer field, because I looked into it. I got a question I couldn't answer. Here's the way, this is the procedure in Cicero. If you own property, there is no law that prohibits you from clearing the property. You have the right to do that. It's your property, right? You cannot disturb the soil. And we have done at least 2 physical inspections on that property to make sure that they're not in there clearing, moving dirt or whatever. And I have been told that they have not done that. So, but they own that property. If they want to cut the trees down, there's nothing that prohibits them from doing so. Or
When you
you.
cut the trees down, don't you have to?
It's been inspected twice by code enforcement, and they have told me
Because
that
when I
that
was
hasn't
there
happened.
yesterday, they were, tree guys were taking down all the trees.
Trees, that's legal. You can cut them
And water
down.
department came to put in a pipe. But I just was
No,
curious.
the water department was there because there was a break in the line. I was there one day because we were looking at it. There was a break across the road, that house had a break in the line. But there was a call came in about that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But I just wanted, you know, like sometimes, and I know how you said go on computer if they start filming it and stuff like that. But sometimes when you want to see the planning board agenda, the meeting, they're like about a month behind sometimes. So by the time you get to read something, it's like, okay, it's finished, it's done, and that's it. So please take that into consideration, that even with the plan, that you guys, you know, to get it out and to look at it.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else before we close?
Before you do, we bypassed the ethics board review. What are we doing with that?
I'm not doing anything with it. That is the ethics board chairman and their attorney.